Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my Unhealthy Podcast, the show where we talk about those unhealthy things, unhealthy habits, all the things we want to fix, but somehow find reasons not to. This is the show where we hopefully turn that around and help each other out one conversation at a time. Today, we are going to be talking about food, and not in a new diet kind of way, but in a how do I actually feel better kind of way. My guest is Beverly Meyer. She is returning for a second episode. She is a certified clinical nutritionist and functional health practitioner who's been helping clients since the 80s. She runs On Diet and Health and hosts the Primal Diet Modern Health podcast, where she talks ancestral nutrition and turns it into practical, real-world strategies. Beverly, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right. So we did mention that this is a second appearance for you. I want to encourage people that if you got here first, you may want to go back and listen to that episode. We talked about sleep apnea. And I also wanted to mention to you, Beverly, we didn't talk about it on the air, but I did not realize that you diagnosed yourself so recently, last year.
Yes, I had been having some odd health concerns, and I'm in my 70s, and I've been after everything I can think of to take care of myself better since the 70s. So I'm a what they call now wellness warrior, and I've been doing that since the 70s. But so whenever anything comes up for me, I am I am on it. I want to research it. I want
Yep.
to see every type of practitioner and doctor I can and try to figure out what's going on. And I love research. I love labs. That's what being a clinical nutritionist is all about. We're not nutritionists or dietitians. We're basically naturopaths. But yeah, I
Right.
love labs. I love diagnostics. I love research, and trying to get to the cause of what's going on, not just cover it up with a pill or a supplement or the biohack of the day.
Right, right.
So yes, I figured out that I had a problem with headaches and fatigue, and I didn't know what it was, but I asked my primary provider if we could run an at-home sleep test to see if there were any clues. And I remember telling her, "Well, I know I don't have sleep apnea, but let's see what data we can get." And then, much to my surprise,
It
I
was
have what's called moderate
okay.
sleep apnea, so mild, moderate, severe, or low enough to not be a problem,
Right.
and I was moderate, so
Now, was this something that you had been experiencing over years, that it just kind of progressed? Was it out of the blue or something you had been dealing with for a long time and you finally said, enough?
well, the headaches, I've been having headaches in the middle of the night and first thing in the morning for 10 years.
Mm.
And I could tell you that I saw a lot of different medical specialties and practitioners, and I mean, you name it, and nobody could figure out why I was having headaches in the night and on a rising. And my sleep test was in October of 2025, and last year in 2025, I had become very fatigued during the day, and, like, I wanted to nod off, and, like, "What is this?" And so doing research, excessive daytime fatigue and headaches on a rising or during the night, are 2 of the 4 or 5 classic symptoms of sleep apnea. So I had to run right out and get a home test, and there we go.
Mm. All right. So folks, be sure to go back and listen to that. We ended up, of course, talking about the machines, the different types of uh, innovations that have come out over years, the mouth tape, which surprised me. And obviously you're doing much better and you are reaping the benefits of having that diagnosis.
You know, I ran right out and bought a machine and a bunch of masks. I didn't even wait to file it through insurance, which is, of course, what you're supposed to do. Um, but the headaches and the fatigue went away almost literally within 2 days. It was that profound,
Wow.
and 10 years of these headaches, and they're gone. And so, yeah, now I'm a passionate, marketing agent for doing at-home sleep tests and every 2 years and just see where you are.
Yep.
Is your oxygen dropping at night? Are you snoring? Or you wake up coughing? Are you tired? You have headaches? Um, just go get a sleep test at home. It's not hard to do.
Yeah. All right. So that was our last episode. And we kind of got there by sidestepping what we started to talk about. And a lot of what you talk about now is food and diet, but it is now, I've not heard the paleo diet mentioned in quite some time, but you actually refer to it as either primal or ancestral eating. So we should probably tell a lot of people because, you know, all of the stuff that's out there now is either keto or prepared foods, you know, all those things you can just order on a regular basis. So we probably need to educate some people as to what exactly ancestral eating really is.
All right, good question. So, um, I'm actually one of the co-founders of the Paleolithic or the Paleo diet. Paleolithic being that time in history before we had communities and uh, growing things and keeping animals. So most of our human history, a couple 100,000 years, the Paleolithic period in time, when a lot of evolution obviously going on, and but no food. We were hunters, we were gatherers, we weren't raising and growing. But suddenly, in about 15,000 years ago, the the last ice age, we've had other ice ages, but the last ice age ended about 15,000 years ago, which is like yesterday in history.
Hmm.
Um, and humans came through that last ice age like the winners. You know, we had multiplied, we had warmth, we had fire, we knew how to hunt, we knew how to protect ourselves, we had families, we had communities, we were smart and multiplying, and we ate a lot of species to extinction. But after the ice age, after the ice retreated, we began to settle down in like claiming an area. Like, okay, all of this valley belongs to us, and we're going to hunt these animals and help take care of them and feed them and gradually bring them in closer and closer to where we live, uh, and start feeding them, start feeding ourselves. And that was the dawn of agriculture and the raising of animals. So it it's only since then that we began to eat grains. Okay, what is a grain? A grain is the seed of grass. It's a grass seed. So wheat, corn, rice, oats, rye, barley, these are all grasses. They're similar historically to what was growing out in your yard. And herbivores, animals that live on grass and leaves and other forage, that's what they eat, and then we eat them. That's the way that's the way this planet works, is that, you know, we are part of the apex predator food chain, and, you know, we eat everything we can hunt and gather. So we have a specific human diet. We don't eat eucalyptus leaves like a koala. We don't eat bamboo like a panda. We have every creature has the diet it evolved to eat. So whether we call it paleo for the Paleolithic time in history, primal, Ancestral, Biological, uh, and there are other names. It's respecting and honoring our biology of what we evolved to eat, what our enzymes do, what our stomach acid is for, how the bowels work. All of this is tied into eating like a human being.
Now, at some point, somebody came up with the idea that you know, we are the higher level species, we are the apex, and that we should somehow be more symbiotic with other animals. We shouldn't eat each other. And I guess that's one of the reasons we started shifting to plant-based diets and all of that stuff. But how much was that just kind of based on somebody's idea of, that wasn't backed in science or history or anything like that?
Wow. Okay. That's a great question and a huge, huge question.
Okay.
So, what the first thing is around 40, 50 years ago, there was a small, flawed study that basically said humans shouldn't have cholesterol over a certain number. That cholesterol is a bad thing, and we need to stop that. And that has that changed the world of food and medicine. That's number one, is a small, old, flawed study that said animal fats and animal proteins were bad, despite the fact that we've been eating them for half a million years, and that's how we got here. Um, and so that's number one. Then number two, around that time, the agricultural revolution came on, and that was chemicals and farming techniques to um, greatly expand wheat and corn and soy production, and which both feeds the animals. But then it was pushed that, yeah, and that's what people need to eat too, is
Hmm.
wheat, corn, and soy.
Okay.
Even though we've never eaten wheat, corn, and soy before, and it's very high in carbohydrates, which a hunter-gatherer diet is not. We are not suited for the high carbs of grass seed and, of course, sugar and fruit juice and all of those other high carb foods. Um, okay, so that's 2 points. Then, um, at some point, you need to bring in, um, the question of poverty and globally
Hmm.
that, um okay, so we've eaten off all the wild animals, basically, killed them or eaten them off or what they're gone. We don't have 40 million buffalo and 100 million passenger pigeons and things that we used to have. We've eaten them. So we now have in all over the world, we have the seeds, the tubers, uh, and these artificially planted grains. And, because the planet doesn't have, I mean, I could look out my window and see a deer right now, but I don't know, I'm not gonna go and hunt it, but they're out there, but they're not everywhere.
Right.
So, and then comes the climate awareness that the Earth is in trouble, which started back in, I think, '84 with Earth Day and so on. And, I forget her name, but the wonderful woman that wrote the first, book, oh, Rachel Carson, Silent Spring, Silent Spring, about that the birds were dying because of the DDT and other pesticides. And so we had a revolution then about, the climate and the planet, and that somehow we made a call to say, it's wrong for me to eat buffalo and passenger pigeons and cows and sheep and things that I've been eating for 500,000 years. Um, and I can't afford them anyway, and they're not wild. So I'll just load up on rice and beans and grains and juice and carbs and sugars, um, the cheap foods. So it, I acknowledge that, okay, I acknowledge that feedlots are a bad thing,
Okay.
and that most um, cattle uh, are they of course they're raised on grass in the first couple of months and weeks of their life. You know, they are grass fed. The cows, that's what they eat. They eat grass. But then they're put into feedlots and they're fed soy and corn, genetically modified soy and corn, and full of Roundup pesticide. So the feedlot meats are bad for the animals and they're bad for us. Um, so it's a problem. But to turn back and say, well, I'm just going to eat the genetically modified Roundup corn and wheat myself, uh, it's complicated.
Yeah,
It's
it is. So here's my question then, and I know I probably cut you off, but I mean, you're, clinically trained, and I have to imagine that a lot of people that were, in the clinics, in the research labs, going through all of this, and if we had just this one study that everybody, rallied around, how did we not reverse that and not have a whole community of people say, um, this isn't, really true?
we have. It's follow the money, Marv.
Okay.
Follow
All right.
the money.
As it always
Because
is.
the studies come out, oh, gee, cholesterol is bad for you. And, oh, we found by accident this weird drug that we were testing called statins. And we were testing them for some other thing. I don't know, hair growth or kidneys or something. I don't remember. But in the process of the studies, people's cholesterol plummeted. So this was happening at the same time. So the pharmaceutical companies have been promoting, uh, oh, that's right. Yes, you need to take statins and reduce your cholesterol. And that's how it's been, except for those of us in the more natural alternative health communities, of which there are, hundreds of thousands of us around the world, have been saying, no, follow the biology. We we are hunters and gatherers by nature, and it's the canola oil and the chemicals and the corn and all this other stuff that's making us sick, not a pasture raised, you know, ground beef sirloin burger.
Well, so of course it's about the money, and why change the diet when we can sell you this pill or this drug and make everything better? Um, so let me go back now. I probably should have done this before, but your interest in all of this, where did that begin? Were you a science nerd in school and you ended up going into the field, or did something happen and you had to do research on your own?
All of the above.
Okay.
I was a science nerd in school. I liked chemistry and physics and algebra and labs and um, archaeology, and so yes, but I've always been underweight, and I've my family was fortunate in that we were raised with the kind of the basic um, animal and 2 vegetables on your dinner plate, um, animal and 2 vegetables on your dinner plate, as opposed to pizza and whatever. Of course, this is, as I say, I was born in the '50s, but so I grew up eating hearty food with very little sugar and bread and Cokes or anything like that. So, but then that's a generational thing, because not long after that, the the generation coming in behind me, they're raised on, you know, microwave food and takeout, which is like a miracle. Takeout? You mean
Oh,
they're gonna bring food over to the house and we have a microwave to heat it up in?
well, it was the microwave, it was the TV dinners.
Yeah. So anyway, I've always been a kind of meat and two vegetables sort of eater, and I've never been attracted to shiny things, sugars, and exotic things. And uh, so anyway, that's just how I am. And food first being my podcast motto, that developed because when I'm consulting with the client, I work with clients all over, not just the United States, but uh, when okay, all of us are having health problems right now, all of us, and some of us don't want to pay attention to that, and some of us do want to pay attention to that, but all of us are a little bit short on knowledge on how our health is not optimized. But the thing is that when I ask a client, all right, tell me what we want to work on. Why'd you contact me? And I get a list of 4, 5, 6, 7 completely different issues, from migraines to rheumatoid arthritis to celiac disease or whatever. And I say, okay, this is not about buying pills. We need to address your biggest chemistry first. And that means your food, how you eat and how you sleep. And that's kind of been how I've taken care of myself through multiple um, health problems, really my whole life. So I do what works for me and then have realizations like, oh, I do so much better when I eat foods that we humans evolved to eat.
Okay.
uh, it's like, oh, this makes sense. And then the research is there. And and we know that carbohydrates, basically the purpose, we have the ability to store extra calories. All living creatures have the ability to eat more, store more, use more for a possible future problem. And that's true from a tree to a cricket. We all have the evolved option to store extra food if we get it. All right, spiders, they'll store extra things that get caught in the web, and if they don't catch anything today, they've got their own little Spidey refrigerator back there, and they can go and find whatever they caught, a couple of days ago. So this is the function of carbohydrates in a human. Are Carbohydrates are rare in a hunter-gatherer ancestral biological diet. We didn't get a lot of carbs. I mean, you might find some tubers, roots like potatoes and sweet potatoes, and there are other tubers. Um, and we might find 2 ripe strawberries because there's not just fruit growing everywhere.
Right.
And so, but if we happened upon uh, a whole bunch of oranges, or eventually, sugar cane, or something that was high in carbs, our bodies store it as fat so we can use it later. So the excess fat on our bodies is from excess carbohydrates. There's like a 99% correlation there. And I've seen this so many times in my practice that when I badger people about eating more animal protein and more cooked vegetables and lots of fats and some tubers and nuts and getting away from the carbs, the weight just falls off. And then other things start to work better. And we haven't, quote unquote, done anything yet. They haven't bought pills or gone to the doctor or whatever. So
Right.
that's why I start with food first, because it's a
Okay.
big piece of chemistry.
All right. So a lot of what you describe is usually on the other end of the spectrum. Most of us get too much. We have too much excess for later. But you started out on the other side that I caught this last episode, and you said it again that tiny frame, underweight. So that usually would require a whole different process than what we hear about. Most of the world is overweight. So how did you turn that around where you were dealing with being underweight? How did you research that and figure out what to
Well,
do?
again, the world is overweight because they're eating carbs. You know, in poor countries, they can eat rice and beans and tortillas. They can't afford lamb chops and sirloin burgers and Brazil nuts and you know, so that's why they're overweight. But in my case, being underweight was a result of celiac disease, so very
Oh,
profound malabsorption, and also there is an immune globulin called gamma globulin that I only found this out 10 years ago when I became extremely ill and I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything except sit home and research to try to save my life, and figured out that I have a rare genetic immune disorder, um, which I do take infusions for every week. So that's a lifelong thing now. But if I'd had those the last 50 years, my life would have been different. I wouldn't have been working in alternative health, helping others, perhaps, because the drive for that has always come out of what do I need to research and learn and about helping myself and the my patients that come in. It's like, wow, look, this works. Let me writing podcasts about this.
okay. So I'm sorry. My mind has just kind of done a double take because I was all prepared for you to make the comment that you were underweight compared to most people. And because, like I said, a lot of us are, if you go by the standard charts of what you're supposed to be at height and weight, most of us are over that. I did not realize that one, you had, celiac disease, and two, a rare autoimmune. You should have led with those. So
Well, but they're still not the reason.
oh, okay.
I mean, there is genetics at play. People in my family are tall and fine boned,
Okay.
so there's that. Um, but also, I had once I was searching something online, and what was being shown was a cover photo from Life magazine from 1975. I think it was one of the space rockets, moon rockets, or other space rockets, and it showed like 100 people all who looking, at apparently a rocket going off. And when you look at that photo, there's maybe one out of 100 people in there that are overweight. So the epidemic of weight and diabetes and kidney disease, these are very, very new problems. I mean, you look at these people in the 70s, 1975, and they all look like me. Some are bigger boned people or muscular, they're athletes, whatever, but they're not fat people
Right.
and they're not storing extra carbs. They're not eating extra carbs. And so there you go.
Okay. Yep. I do remember I've had conversations where we talked about the differences. When I was in high school, um, you you didn't have kids over 300 pounds. I'll use that as a reference. There were, the bigger kids were 200. And our football team, we didn't have an offensive lineman, I don't know, probably over 260 or whatever. Well, now to be a good high school football team, every lineman's got to be 300 pounds. And, kids are growing up like that on a regular basis. So things
Now
have
look to
changed.
basketball. Look to basketball and baseball. Th- those those players are not. They're not carb loading. Like the football players are.
Oh, but they're still bigger than they
They're
were when I grew up. Still bigger.
yeah.
So,
Well, I don't know. Those our Spurs are not overweight. I can tell you that.
yeah.
So
Okay. So going back to the ancestral diet, let me ask you this. What does that really look like on a plate?
All right, good question. Here's how I eat, and here's how I teach my clients. So there are other versions of this, but basically, uh, when you look at your plate, I recommend, first of all, that people eat 3 hearty meals a day. And for many women, you need a nice, strong afternoon snack as well. So I eat 4 times a day. I've been doing that for decades, because going from 12 to 7:30 is just too long to go without food. We get unhappy. And so so here's one of my mottos is all meals are dinner. All meals are dinner. So my breakfast meal looks just like you might think a dinner looks like. So it might be you know, a ground burger or beef stew, a couple of big handfuls of cooked vegetables. I've got butter or coconut oil or ghee on all of that, a couple of herbs and spices, and I'm good to go. So all meals are dinner.
Okay, so obviously no cereal, but what about eggs?
Well, eggs are fine. They in my case, I stopped eating them about 20 years ago because, I figured out again through trial and error that they were causing me to have gallbladder issues, and, which in my case manifested with a very sharp pain in the right scapula in my back. Um, I I used to call it the hook, 'cause it felt like somebody just drove a hook into my scapula on the back, and, it took me years to figure out that, I did some research that there is evidence of eggs can flare up and cause gallbladder dysfunction, which is very genetic, and it runs in families. So yes, people can eat eggs, but if you go back 100,000 years, were every person eating 1 to 4 eggs a day? No, or we wouldn't have had any birds left.
Mm,
So eggs, you know how I term is that the animal, the weeds, the produce, the nuts and seeds, the fats, these are our staples, and some tubers and things, and everything else is a condiment. So, garlic, strawberries, olives, um, and even eggs, I might kinda edge them slightly towards the condiment department, but it's fine, people like eggs. Okay, fine, if you're going to eat eggs for a meal, though, have some animal protein with it. Put a sausage on there, and they're excellent, um, grain-free, gluten-free, chemical-free sausages now. All the big pastured meat online providers all have a terrific assortment of different kinds of quote unquote sausages.
hmm. All right. So if every meal looks like dinner, so some people are going to say that's a lot of meat.
Well, 3 or 4 ounces on a plate is about the size of a deck of cards.
Okay, so
So,
smaller meat portions then.
well, it it
I'm
goes by your body size.
mhm.
So the way I teach is the majority of my clients are women, not little children, not big male athletes or whatever. But I tell people to make a fist, make a little tight little fist, and kind of squish it flat and look at it. So it's kind of the size of a deck of cards. Now, if I'm a basketball player, I've got a much bigger hand than that. So their fist, kind of squished flat to make it a rectangle, is much bigger than mine.
Okay.
They're not big because of they're carrying extra fat. They're big because they're big people. So I that's a little gray area. If somebody weighed 350 pounds and wanted to work with me, I'd have to give them more specifics
Well, no, I
on that.
understand that. I was just thinking in terms of the average size of a steak is what they do 8 ounce. And then of course everybody strives for the 12-ounce sirloin, right?
Yeah. It's too much. Do doggy bags and take that home.
Okay. All right. So 3 meals look like dinner. Now a
And
question,
lots of vegetables.
lots of vegetables.
Yeah, the paleo ancestral biological diet, we eat more vegetables than any other diet. We eat way more vegetables than vegetarians and vegans. And and I've seen that over and over and over, that vegans and vegetarians get very hung up on grains and beans. So they're eating rice and beans and chickpeas and hummus and tortillas and sprouted bread and all day long. And then they have a salad. They don't eat vegetables as a general rule. And to be fair, most people don't eat enough vegetables as a general rule, but
Right.
but we don't feast on um, carbohydrate foods like the vegans and the vegetarians do.
Okay. So within the vegetable category, so I know that, we're talking leafy greens a lot, spinach, lettuce. I know kale's in there. I not sure
Yeah.
I like it. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts. What else?
Everything in that 50-foot aisle.
Everything?
Radishes, beets, bok choy, cauliflower,
Bok choy.
asparagus,
What's bok choy?
zucchini, winter squash, summer squash, spinach, all the field greens, radishes, parsnips, turnip greens, collard greens, everything, the entire 50-foot aisle that
Okay. I don't
we
know
should
if
be
I
eating.
I don't know if I know any recipes that will do turnips and radishes. So, but
Okay,
those
but
I understand. Those
I'm
are
gonna
usually
answer that
okay. Go ahead.
because you can go to my website on diet and health and download a an ebook called Cooking Without Recipes.
Okay.
And it just you'll find it. I'm actually making changes to the website as we speak, but right now, if you pretty much pull up any article, you'll find a beautiful cover of some salmon and vegetables, cooking without recipes. So if you download and print that ebook, it's only 16 pages. But the way that I teach people to cook is if you're going to go down a rabbit hole of I don't know how to cook that, give me a recipe, you're in trouble because all foods, well, maybe there's exceptions, I don't know, but almost every food can be cooked by some form of heat, whether it's steam or a grill, a crock pot, the oven, or a skillet. And the way that I eat a lot of food, so I eat about 2,300 calories a day because I have a high metabolism. Uh, so, which is twice what most people eat, just for comparison. so, the, um, so I have two big steamers that are like stock pots. They're a foot tall, and they have a slotted big steaming basket that's all the way down inside the stock pot,
Hmm.
except for an inch at the bottom for water. So I can put a lot of produce in there and steam it really quick. And just do round after round after round this is another one of my mottos is um, this is raw food and that is not raw food. So
This
there's
is
no
rough.
recipe,
Okay.
there's no worry. You just steam it, put it in the steamer, and make it not a raw beet anymore. Or you can put the chicken in your steamer and make it not a raw chicken anymore. Of course, you can throw it in the oven and coat it with oregano. That's fine too.
I
But
was going to say, are you putting anything on it? Because I'm just trying to imagine putting it in a steamer and then eating it. There's got to be some
well, the point
salt.
is that you've got 10 or 12 items. You've got a bunch of different meats and a bunch of different vegetables and some sweet potatoes,
Oh,
and
so
they're all cooked.
you're doing a stew then, kind of.
No, 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 no,
No?
all individual.
Oh, individual. Okay.
Yeah, that's why you're doing round after round. Okay, here comes the kale, here comes the Brussels sprouts, here comes the cauliflower, here comes the carrots, here comes this, here comes that. Um, while other things are in the oven or on the grill or in the crock pot. The point now is you cool it down, store it in glass like Pyrex, put it in your fridge, and when it's time for breakfast, you open the fridge. Oh, I had that grilled salmon from yesterday. Let's pull that out. And the wilted spinach, that won't last very long. So let's have spinach. And I feel like having some of the steamed broccoli. So put that in your skillet and you can heat that up with garlic or hot sauce or authentic olive oil or anything you want. But you don't have to chop it and clean it and cook it or think about it. It's already cooked food.
Okay. All right. And the book. So I've been scouring your website to find it. Now I found one that said fast make ahead meals. Is that the one
Yeah,
you're talking about, or is there another one?
yeah, no, that's it.
Okay. So if you go to the
And you can
website,
download that.
yep, it's there. Um, yeah, right at the bottom, there's free resources. It's the first item under the free resources. So when you get to the website, ondietandhealth.com/resources, yep, that's there.
And right now, that pop-up, although it's not a pop-up, it's at the bottom of every page of every article. Uh, I am working right now to rearrange a few things on the website, so that may move to the homepage. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I have on the homepage, I think I have, 5, uh, antiviral tips for herpes syndrome. I
I,
think I've got on the
I saw
homepage.
that and I didn't know if I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, no, half the people in the United States have had exposure to one or more of the herpes viruses.
Really?
So chickenpox, Epstein-Barr, herpes type 1, herpes type 2, shingles. These are all herpes viruses, and, the majority of my work the last 5 years has been working with people on any or all of these herpes viruses. So
I'm gonna have to.
I'm probably the top resource in the world for helping people understand exactly what to do for these herpes viruses. And guess what? It ties in perfectly with the food that we've been talking about.
Of course.
It's like no accident that yes, animal proteins, fats, vegetables are very low in the amino acid that feeds all of those herpes viruses, arginine.
Mm.
So it all ties right in with what I'm already teaching anyway. And then you add supplements, control it with food, and then use supplements to manage it from there.
All right.
And
So I'm
I have a
actually
lot of I have a lot of happy people in the United States that, you know, yay, I can date again or whatever, and I don't have to go to work with makeup for a cold sore, and I got over my shingles, and my mom still has it, and all she'll eat is carbohydrates. I'm like, "Well, she's in trouble."
yeah.
Um,
Well,
so
I saw that on the website and wasn't sure, but it was right next to so you've got a podcast episode on that as well, which is right next to steps I took to heal a leaky gut. So,
well, I have 9 articles and podcasts on the herpes virus.
okay.
It's a very major part of my work now. It didn't used to be, but, um, uh, uh, it I'm very familiar with it and started writing about it 15 years ago, and sometimes, I get 3 contacts a day from people saying, "Oh my gosh, somebody that actually knows this virus, has experienced this virus, and can help me figure this out. Will you work with me?" Yes, I will.
All right. We may have to have a podcast on that because that's one of those things. You're right. People don't want to talk about it, but if 50% of us are exposed, we need to talk about it more. So I will.
Well, I contracted it back in the in the 80s. So for me, it's no different than having a the flu or an ingrown toenail or a, a, a rash or whatever. It's a virus.
Right.
That's it. It's just a virus. So how do I treat it? Well, food first, then we have some supplements to help.
All right. Beverly, let me ask you this as we try to wrap here. If there's one thing that you could make sure that listeners leave with as a result of this episode, what would it be?
Absolutely follow the biology. You are a human being. You should eat like your ancestral genes evolved to eat and get off of wheat and corn and rice and oats and beans and barley and tortillas and chips and Oreos and cookies and fruit juice and pie. And profound changes will happen in your body, and you'll know you're on your right track. And you go out and have birthday cake because it's your sister's birthday, and you're going to know it. And then I don't have to keep telling you, you've learned it for yourself. Like, oh, look what just happened from a piece of cake.
Mm,
Oh my God, I'm not doing that again.
no.
And that's how we learn, isn't it?
Yep.
Experience is a teacher.
All right. Well, folks, there you have it. We've got a little bit more information on paleo/ancestral eating, what it looks like. Uh, Probably a lot of reasons why we feel worse on our low-fat, high-carb diets. And we have now a simple, realistic way to start eating more ancestral. Go to the website, folks, ondietandhealth.com, as I mentioned, or find in your favorite podcatcher the podcast that we mentioned. I mentioned the episode specifically that I was going to refer to, but Primal Diet, Modern Health, Beverly Meyer, holistic nutritionist. Beverly, thank you very much for coming back on the show.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure.
And if I go through your podcast and come up with another question, I may have to reach out to you and and do that.
That'd be great.
So, all right, folks, that is going to do it for this episode. If this helped you rethink what your normal diet is, share it with a friend. Make sure you've subscribed to the Unhealthy Podcast so you don't miss a future conversation like this. And be sure to check the show notes for all of the links for Beverly Meyer and go get her free books and learn how to eat simple and fast. So that's it, folks. Thank you very much. We will be back with another episode soon. And until then, live healthy and be happy.